Hello and welcome back to Matt Hayes' Tottenham blog and another episode of Transfer Talk. Today we're going to be talking about the futures of Fernando Llorente and Eric Dier, as well as an update on Aaron Wan Bissaka. So before I get started in the video, please don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you. So first of all, it looks like any chance we had of signing Aaron Wan Bissaka from Crystal Palace is gone. There was never really anything from official channels that the club were interested in signing him this year, but it was definitely a transfer that the fans were hoping to see this summer. Wan Bissaka really shone last season as one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League and had a really good season with Palace. But United made a bid last night for Wan Bissaka, and it was said this morning that was in the region of £40 million. However, Sky Sports News understand that Palace have actually rejected that bid and they're looking for something closer to £60 million for the right back. It doesn't seem like that's something that Daniel Levy will go for. Whether or not he was interested in him in the first place, it feels like anything there is gone, because a player who's pretty much unproven for obviously a sustained period of time. He's only had one season with Palace, and even though it was such a good season, he doesn't really feel like a player that's worth £60 million to a club with such a tight budget. And I know Pochettino, it's the type of player he works well with, but it doesn't really seem like that's going to happen this summer. Interestingly, in the same news report, Kaveh Salakal of Sky Sports said that United, if they were to fail in their pursuit of Wan Bissaka, would go after Kieran Trippier, and I think Thomas Meunier of PSG was another name who was mentioned in there. But of course, and that's the third team that have been interested in Kieran Trippier this summer. And when you think of that, and especially the comments he made after the Champions League final, it does kind of feel like it's going to be his last season at the club, and that he will be moving on this summer. Even though he had a disappointing season, it will be sad to see him go. You know, he's had some great years with us, and if he does go, obviously we prefer it not to be to a Premier League rival. That's a problem we've had in the last couple of years, when you look at players like Kyle Walker and going further back, even Dimitar Berbatov, selling them on to our rivals. But if Trippier is to go, it certainly doesn't look like Wan Bissaka is going to be a player who can replace him, mainly because of that really high transfer fee that Crystal Palace are looking for. Now, moving on to Eric Dier, the Times reported yesterday that Manchester United are interested in signing him as a replacement for Nemanja Matic, who is looking like he might move on from the club this summer. Obviously, Eric Dier was a target for Man United a couple of windows back, and it's kind of a recurring theme that they have been linked to him under a number of different managers. They're believed to be going after him after their pursuit of Declan Rice failed. West Ham are really unlikely to sell him. And Dier had, when he first broke into the team, when he signed him from Sporting Lisbon, he was one of the best players in our team and was so solid in that midfield with Dembele. But in recent seasons, he's been plagued by injury and he just hasn't really hit the form that he did at the beginning of his Tottenham career. And I suppose if we can get a good enough fee for him, it looks like it mightn't be that bad a deal. And I know, again, it's selling on to one of our Premier League rivals, but he's not a player who's really shown much quality in the last couple of years. And Man United, they're a team who seem to be going a bit backwards now, and especially with Ander Herrera leaving this summer and Juan Mata as well, supposedly on his way out. If they do lose Matic, I mean, I don't think really they'll be challenging in the top four next season, depending on how well Solskjaer can reinvest the money that they do make from transfers out of the club. So Dier, I mean, it's never nice to see a player leave your club, especially one who had such an impact and was such a big part of, especially that 16-17 season where he finished second in the Premier League. But yeah, it looks like, again, Eric Dier might be his last season at the club and he will be moving on this summer. Now, Fernando Llorente, we heard a couple of weeks ago that the club had actually missed a deadline that was set in his contract to extend his contract by a further year, and we were told that he would be leaving the club in the summer. But it was only a couple of days after that Sky Sports reported that we were in contract negotiations with him, and it was looking likely that he'd stay at the club for another year. And that was that really for a couple of weeks until yesterday, when, again, it was Sky Sports released the Tottenham's list that they sent to the Premier League of the club, of the players that they'd be releasing this summer, and Fernando Llorente was on that list along with Michel Vorm and other players. Now, and for Michel Vorm, there was official confirmation from the club on their social media accounts and on Michel Vorm's Twitter as well. There was messages there, Michel Vorm saying a farewell and Tottenham thanking him for his service to the club over the last 5 years. But there's been nothing on Fernando Llorente from either him or the club. So it's a bit of an interesting one that the Premier League, from their side of things, he will be leaving the club, but there's been nothing official that we've heard. And the only explanation I can really think of for that is that his current contract will expire, and I think it's the 30th of June before the pre-season starts. So on paper, he will leave the club on the 30th of June when his contract expires, because it can't be extended. But if the club are still in negotiations with him, he might sign a new contract that will begin on the 1st of July when pre-season starts. But because his current contract is expiring, we'll be signing him essentially as a free agent rather than him staying on at the club. So on paper, he will be leaving, but if he does sign that new contract, it won't really mean anything, and he will be at the club again next year. Now, since we were told that there were negotiations going on, there hasn't been anything since then. So all we can really assume is that they're still in talks with Fernando Llorente, and look, I hope he does stay, because he did so well for us last season in the absence of Kane, and it was Son who kind of stood up more. But Llorente, especially in that Champions League campaign, he's so pivotal in the goals against PSV when we beat them at Wembley in the group stage, and of course the goal against Man City that put us through, and against Ajax in the second half of that second leg. He was just so important to us throughout the season. He scored some important goals as well, not just in the Champions League, but a few in the Premier League as well. So a player, again, who's as experienced as he is and who has won as much as he has, it'll be a big loss if he does go. And I hope the club can find a deal to keep him at the club for at least another year, because he's getting old now. He's 34, and maybe they could just wean him out of the club, wean him out of the team next season. But I hope he does sign that new contract and he does stay on. That's all for the video today. Don't forget to leave down in the comments below what you think about our transfer activity so far this summer, and what you think about Trippier and Dier potentially leaving the club, and if Fernando Llorente will be staying on. As always, thanks very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.